going? What up? What up? What up? Welcome to a special episode of the Sports PSP podcast. As usual, the highlight of Friday nights, but today is Tuesday, so we're going to do something special on a Tuesday, but that's all right because we're always going to entertain and put on a great show as we normally do. Of course, can't do the Sports PSP podcast without the one and only four-time college degree military man, great brother, great friend, great supporter, brilliant about sports, brilliant about politics, a lot of things he brings to the table. Although he's staying away from daiquiris and po' boys, but still, you will count on him from time to time, especially come football season. The one and only undisputed world champ. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, it's good to be here, man. Been a long week. Been a lot of grueling process. Been a grueling process for a lot of things. So, as you already know, PSP. But I am so happy to be back on the Sports PSP podcast and doing it on a Tuesday once again, man. Going up on a Tuesday, man. Look, hey, it's always special to be on the highlight of Friday night. When we go up on a Tuesday, man, ain't nothing like going to a bar, having a beer on a Tuesday, and recovering from a grueling Monday's work, man. So, hey, man, going up on a Tuesday once again. Glad to see you, PSP.
As always a pleasure, man. And plus, one day, tomorrow, Wednesday, sooner or later, the weekend starts creeping in. So you never know. But, champ, let's talk about last night's game between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I had the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the series. You had Indiana. Tyrese Halliburton struggled, and now it's being reported that he has a calf strain. He's gonna have an MRI. Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder, boy, he put on a show last night. SGA got you his buckets. But champ, to me, Indiana, if they want any chance of winning this series, they got to cut down on the turnovers. They got to slow down the pace a little bit. And I'm kind of disappointed in Rick Carlisle, who I like a lot, who's a really good coach, a damn good coach, who's a champion himself. You got to cut down on the turnovers. You can't win the games when you're giving up 22 turnovers. 22 turnovers to Oklahoma City's 11 turnovers. Tyrese Halliburton, only 4 points, but 0 of 6 from the field, 0 of 4 from downtown. If the Pacers want any chance of winning this series, champ, they got to cut down on the turnovers, and Tyrese Halliburton is going to have to step up. Meanwhile, Jalen Williams, 40 points. 14 to 25 from the field, 3 of 5 from downtown, 9 of 12. I mean, he was efficient. He was attacking the basket. I got Oklahoma City winning this one, man. Are you still riding with the ship?
Hey, part of being a captain is you got to go down with the ship. I got to go down with the ship on the Indiana Pacers. And I believe that as long as Rick Carlisle is the coach, I believe they have a chance in order to win. And to be honest with you, hey, they've been able to come back with insurmountable odds before. But, you know, they got to hope that Tyrese Halliburton is going to be on the floor. They're going to have the home court advantage going into game 6. But, you know, they have every capability in order to extend the series. But their hope lies upon Tyrese Halliburton and him not being out for that game. Now, I believe if he's injured enough, they need to pull him. Now, will that hinder their chances? Yes, it would. But it's better than him being a liability on the floor. And with Rick Carlisle being a championship coach, him being a champion himself with the 86 Celtics, one of the greatest teams of all time, if not the greatest team of all time, I believe that he can make the adjustments for his bench and rotational players in order to fill that void that Tyrese Halliburton would leave. And I believe this, if that's a big if, Tyrese Halliburton and the Indiana Pacers were to lose this series, regardless of the injury or not, there's going to be something against him. There's going to be something held against him because he was already voted most overrated. But you can best believe they're going to start holding you against him and saying that, hey, if you knew you were hurt, why did you take yourself out of the game? Which that's a double-edged sword. It's kind of like, okay, I can take myself out of the game, but we're trying to win the world championship here. We're trying to win a world championship. So I think they're going to hold it against him. But like I said, it's a double-edged sword. Like I said, if I take myself out of the game, you're questioning my heart. If I stay in the game and don't perform up to par, then you're going to start questioning if I'm really, really hurt. Or is this just, press clippings that is just being put out just so it can negate my poor performance? We saw that happen. We saw that quote unquote happen. There's a lot of conspiracy theories around the LeBron James if he was really hurt during that course of that game of the first round. All of a sudden here comes, the hamstring injury or whatever he had going on after the series. But, like I said, conspiracy theories would never die. As long as there's sports, as long as there's historic facts, there's always going to be conspiracy theories.
I think if I'm Tyrese Halliburton, I play with no regrets. Look at Terrell Owens. Perfect example. Remember how he played in the Super Bowl on one leg? People thought he was selfish for playing in the Super Bowl on one leg. But, hey, he played. And not only he played, he was great. 9 for $122. It's unfair for Tyrese Halliburton because if you sit him, if he decides not to play, you're questioning his heart. You're questioning how bad he wants it. But at the same time, a calf strain. Keep in mind, let's not forget Kevin Durant, when he suffered the calf strain injury in the semifinals to the Houston Rockets, and he played in the NBA Finals. I believe it was Game 5 at Toronto. He got hurt, which led to the Achilles injury. So if you're Indiana, you want to jeopardize your future? No. You don't want to go on that same route. And plus, the window is open. If you're in the East, especially in the East, I still expect Indiana to still compete because with the Knicks, and maybe we'll talk about them later on in the show, maybe they still haven't addressed the head coach. Orlando, and we'll definitely discuss this on the show, Orlando with the trade to get Desmond Bane by giving up 4 unprotected first-round picks, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, and I believe a first-round swap. So the window is still wide open for Indiana, and because they still have Pascal Siakam, who also has championship pedigree, who can also affect you with the defense, and with Rick Carlisle as the head coach, I still believe Indiana can still compete. But if Tyrese Halliburton wants to stay and wants to sit out to avoid further injury and the calf strain injury, because remember, I brought up the example with Kevin Durant. Sit him. If you don't want to jeopardize your future, you don't want to jeopardize this young man's future. His young man's future is pretty bright. So why risk that?
Long term, like I said, why risk it? But like I said, this is the NBA Finals. So if he doesn't play, they're going to hold it against him. They're going to question his heart. If he does, then they're going to say, well, why do you take yourself, especially if he's not performing up to optimal performance. Now, we've seen a lot of players go in and have certain injuries and still play. And I hate to go back this far. Remember, Jerry West, he played in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. He injected Novocaine into his leg so he could be able to play.
Right.
And then they had to carry him up the stairs in the Great Western Forum. So we've seen things happen before. We've seen it for the good and we've seen it for the bad. But it's really going to come down to what Tyrese Halliburton and the Indiana Pacers are looking at. And I agree with you 100%. The East is wide open next year, especially with Jason Tatum being hurt. And then on top of that, you don't know where the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be going, what direction they're going to be going, because they don't know whether they're coming or going at this point. They don't know, especially with Joel Embiid being hurt, a lot of Paul George, that experiment not working. So there's the Giannis situation, them not knowing where he wants to go or he wants to stay. So there's a lot of, whereas the West, everybody is pretty much set at this moment. In the East, everybody is pretty much up in arms at this point. It's pretty much a lot of panic segue in the East at this point because nobody knows what's going to happen. You have the Giannis situation. You have a whole bunch. I mean, you have the New York Knicks and their coaching situation. You have a whole bunch of drama in the East that I don't believe outside of people like you, PSP, are talking about at this point. Because the thing is, there should be dozens of segments, even during the NBA Finals, about how the East is in straight up turmoil. I mean, the East is in turmoil right now. You have coaches being fired, don't have a replacement. Giannis, who's arguably one of the greatest players in the league right about now, you don't know where he's going to be next year. And you have the Boston Celtics situation with Jason Tatum. You don't know if they're just going to break up this team and say, hey, let's just start over from scratch at a certain point due to Jason Tatum being out with that Achilles injury, and they don't know when he's going to be getting back. So there's a lot of drama in the air when it comes to the East, a lot of drama in the air. So, yeah, the East is pretty much wide open at this point. And it's just a question of who's going to take it. There's going to be other opportunities, but if you think of it like that as a competitor, well, there's going to be another opportunity next year, then that's not really competitive, if you really want me to be honest with you. They're going to say, if you have that mentality there's next year, then you're really not a competitor. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of he's damned if he do and he's damned if he don't at this point in time, that being Tyrese Halliburton. I would not want to be in that young man's situation right now.
But at the same time, for those who question his heart and stuff, how would you know? Because you're not the one dealing with the injury. He has. And as well as the team. And for those who want to say, well, he doesn't want to play because he doesn't want it bad enough, how would you know? To your point, nobody wants to be in his situation. But at the same time, if from an organizational standpoint, I don't want to jeopardize my future. I understand we're in the NBA Finals, but do I really want to jeopardize my future? Because if I do, I have to start back from scratch. And the East is wide open. So why do that? And plus, even though we went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, we went to the Eastern Conference Finals this year, but to me, no. I wouldn't if he's unhealthy, I wouldn't risk it because I don't want to suffer a catastrophic injury and I don't want to wish ill on the young man and for him to go through all that rehab and training. No. I don't want to do that. For those who want to say, well, you don't care, you don't want it bad enough, to hell with them. Because at the end of the I'm sorry, to hell with them. Because again, you don't know how exactly someone feels. In the words of the late great Robin Williams, everyone is battling something you know nothing about.
Exactly. Like I said, I would not want to be in that young man's shoes right about now because there's already questions around Tyrese Halliburton as it is. There's questions all the way back to the Olympics.
And plus, he's proven. He's proved that. I'm sorry to cut you off, Champ, but he's proven. Okay. His peers voted him the most overrated player in the NBA. He's hit clutch shot after clutch shot for you. He helped the Indiana Pacers get back to the finals since 2000. Back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals appearances. And plus, Champ, you touched on this. Indiana, that is a great basketball state. We talk about Caitlin Clark a lot, and we're going to touch on Caitlin Clark. We talk about Larry Bird, who is a native of Indiana. We talk about all the great things of Indiana with basketball. Only thing we talk about with football is just basically the Colts with Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck to a lesser extent. But Indiana, known for basketball, and it's great because you got two stars for the Pacers and the Fever in Caitlin Clark and Tyrese Halliburton. And the future looks bright for Indiana and in terms of the market. And it's great, though, unfortunately, because we're talking about Indiana and Oklahoma City, two small market teams. Unfortunately, you mentioned this game one, the lowest ratings for game one. And I think it had to do with the market, but still, it's a very competitive series. Really exciting. Sorry, it's not a big market like a New York, a Miami, and LA, but I'm still tuning in. And to see some of these young players, for me, if I'm Indiana, I would not risk it. Although I'm in the finals, but I have to wait to see what the MRI says. And if the doctor tells me, no, do not risk it, I'm not going to risk it. because I understand it's the finals, but at the same time, I don't want to start back from scratch because you never know if you're going to come back again.
No, you don't. You don't. And like I said, you don't want to risk it. If I'm a franchise player, if I'm the franchise myself, if I'm the owner, I'm the general manager, I'm the coach, sit down, because I'm not sending you out there. And I will go to the press myself if I'm Rick Carlisle and that organization and say, we are sitting him down. He's not sitting himself down. We made him sit down.
We are sitting him down. Exactly. Because we don't want people, because, people are going to speculate, media, public, they're going to speculate and question Tyrese Halliburton's heart and whatever. Just look at his play overall, and you tell me he has quit in him.
No, he doesn't. And that's why I truly believe if he is to sit, the organization needs to get out front and be more proactive than reactive and say, we're sitting him down.
Exactly.
We are doing that. We didn't leave the choice within his hands. We're not doing any waivers. We're not doing anything. This is our franchise player. He's making an excess of $40 million a year. And this is our hope for a championship. This is our hope. We traded to get him here for a reason. So,
and if God forbid he gets hurt.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And yeah, God forbid he gets hurt. Remember all that heat that Tom Thibodeau took with Derrick Rose. Remember all the heat.
You want to jeopardize that? No.
Come on. Remember all of the heat that the Cleveland Cavaliers took in the NBA Finals when they sent Kyrie out there. Remember that? They sent David Blatt sent Kyrie out there and just was playing the hell out of him. And just was playing him on no load management, no anything. Kyrie ended up tearing his ACL in the finals. And darn well, that could have darn well cost the Cleveland Cavaliers a chance of beating the Golden State Warriors. Because I truly believe if it was Kyrie out there and LeBron, rather than Matthew Dellavedova, it would have been a completely different story because they was already down a man because of Kevin Love, the Kevin Love injury. Remember the Kelly Oubre injury where he separated the shoulder on purpose. So they was already down a man already. Now, granted, Tristan Thompson was able to fall into that situation and get him a new contract with some of the numbers he put up in the finals of the power forward to fill in for Kevin Love, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same level of production and intensity. So when you think about Derrick Rose and when you think about Kyrie Irving, if I am that organization, the Pacers, I'm getting in front of this and I'm saying, look, you sit your blank down. You're not going to go out there. We're going to depend on our rotational players and we're going to make the adjustment. If it goes to game 7, we'll talk. But until then, you sit down on that bench and leave the press and leave the media to us.
I also think that the players should step in and voice for Tyrese Halliburton just to defend him. You saw how the way, because I know, Champ, you covered the WNBA very well, and please go like and subscribe to Champ on TikTok and IG. Who was the WNBA player that came to Angel Reese's defense in the press conference?
Ariel Atkins.
You saw how the way she defended Angel Reese? Perhaps if the players defended Tyrese Halliburton, that could help out Tyrese Halliburton and perhaps takes the heat off of him for anyone to question whether how bad he wants it or not.
I think if the organization gets in front of it and says something and say that we have the final say, if they get in front of it and rather than, like I said, be more proactive than reactive, if they get in front of this and they say, hey, we're sitting Tyrese Halliburton down for this game because we don't want to risk further injury, I don't believe that the teammates coming to his aid would be necessary because as the owner, as the general manager, as the coach, you have the final say. You have the final say.
I get that, Champ, but at the same time, you know how sometimes are with the media. Sometimes they'll speculate, they'll jump to conclusions, and nowadays with journalists I'm sorry, Champ, we've had these discussions with other journalists, like with Stephen A. Smith. Now, if this were a Brian Windhorst, I'll give Brian Windhorst the benefit of the doubt because he has integrity. Stephen A. Smith, and I respect Stephen A. Smith's body of work, but overall lately,
Yeah, but when, like I said, when the owner and the team itself, the coach, the general manager, when the front office and the coaches, they are unified, it's kind of hard for you. And I hate to say this on the air, you really got to pull some out of your buttocks. If after the organization says something, the entire organization come out and say, we are sitting Tyrese Halliburton for this game 6, you really have to try to pull something out of your buttocks to go against that and question Tyrese Halliburton. Because it's kind of like if we were sitting, if the Sports PSP podcast was on a major network and they say, okay, for this week, we're going to change up the view. Okay, we have bosses now. We can't just dictate what happens on something. If my boss tells me, hey, you can't do this, then guess what? What am I going to say? We're not going to allow him to sign a waiver. We're not going to risk it. Guess what? We're going to sit him down for game 6. We'll reevaluate when and if we are at a game 7. Now, game 7 comes around, we'll see about what's going on. But game 6, hey, I need you to sit down. And like I said, it's not like they don't have the rotational players in order to match up against them. We saw.
No, they're too loaded.
Yes.
They're too loaded.
Yeah. Indiana's bench is loaded. So we've seen them do a lot of things. We've seen them outscore OKC's bench and rotational players as well. So guess what? If you can start up as much drama as you want to, but once the boss comes out and say, this is what's going to happen, then guess what? I don't have a lot of choice in the matter. Remember the first 2 games in that Seattle the first 3 games in the Seattle Supersonic series and what happened with George Karl and Gary Payton, right? They didn't necessarily play him on the defensive end the way they were supposed to. They only wanted him to play on the offensive side until Gary Payton stepped in and said, blank that, you're not controlling this anymore. I'm playing both ways, and I'm checking Jordan. So, and that was up until they put Scottie Pippen on Gary Payton, and then that really changed things. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But yeah, once the boss comes out and say, once the overall boss and then the head coach, the general manager, and people like that start saying, this is our star player, he's not playing, then guess what? What can anybody else say? You can try to pull a story out of your behind if you want to, but guess what? You're not going to get very far.
Yeah, and again, that's what I'm also afraid that may happen, champ. So I don't have a problem with the people from the high up speaking, but I always feel like the players, nothing wrong with the players' defense. There's nothing wrong with the players' defense because when you have the players supporting you as well from a teammate standpoint, that makes you feel good. It makes you feel like people do appreciate you, your contributions, what you bring to the table. But I have no problem with the owner. The question is, will it happen if they decide to bench him? Should they? Yes. But I also think if the ownership or the high ups or the coaches are not going to do that, the players, I think they should say, hey, management made the decision, whether we like it or not. We have to respect it. And whatever happens, we'll go from there.
Yes, indeed. When you have that double tap to it, then guess what? Like I said, the press can try to pull as many stories out of their behind as they want to. But guess what? The players and the general managers and the owner, as well as the coach, said he's not playing. So, and like I said, if you had an asset like a Tyrese Halliburton in a small market where you're not necessarily getting stars every other day like these big markets are, would you go out here and play them? Blank, blank, no, you wouldn't.
There you go. Let's continue on with the NBA. The Memphis Grizzlies, they traded Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic. Orlando gave Memphis 4 unprotected first-round picks, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They also gave up Cole Anthony and a first-round swap. I like it for Memphis, champ, regarding their future. Orlando, you can make the argument, hey, we've been to the playoffs past couple of years. The East is still wide open. So, hey, why not make a deep trade with this run? We saw it with the New York Knicks with the Mikal Bridges. They gave up so much draft compensation to the Brooklyn Nets, and they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But my thing is, though, with Orlando, I like Paolo Banchero. I like Franz Wagner. I think they have a young, good team. What do you think about the trade?
Desmond Bane is a great player, but that was a little much. That was a little much, if you really want me to be honest with you. That was a little much. And you have to ask yourself, what direction with this trade? I'm not asking so much as the direction they're trying to go with Desmond Bane. He's gone already. But you have to ask yourself this: is Memphis trying to stockpile draft picks so they can get rid of Ja? That's the question that I'm asking. Are they saying that this team has gone far enough at this point, and we just need to go ahead and just start rebuilding while we still have a chance and while these players still have value? And is Ja on his way out of there? And was Desmond Bane the first domino to fall? And was the first chess piece to fall? That was the first question that came to my mind. That was a lot to give up for Desmond Bane. It was a lot. Desmond Bane is a hell of a player, not taking anything but 4 first-round picks, 2 role players. So that was a lot. But like I said, you have to wonder, is this the first domino to fall in order for them to eventually trade Ja as well? And is his time in Memphis coming to an end, especially with some of the dysfunctional things that have been going on with the coaching, have been going on with the front office, have been going on with a lot of things? So that's the question that I ask. Good trade by the Memphis Grizzlies to get a lot of draft capital, because we have some hell of a players coming out of college in the next couple of years. You know,
yes.
Especially, my bad, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I said yes. Go ahead, continue, champ.
Yeah, especially with the transfer portal and everything like that. You don't know who's going to come out of nowhere in order to be great. It's getting better and better. And the players are more polished. Remember, a lot less players declared for the draft this year. They're staying in college now because of that NIL money. So they're getting the skills that they need in order to be successful at the NBA level. But you got to ask yourself this. This is the question that I ask. Who's next? Or is this the first domino to fall in order to get Giannis? In order to team Giannis up with, because it's a possibility. You got 4 draft picks and 2 role players, and you have your own draft capital.
I see him in San Antonio. I would see him in San Antonio.
I see him in San Antonio, but can you imagine the press that it will bring Ja Morant and Giannis?
I know, but at the same time, though, how's the two going to work? It would work if you would have a quality point guard. Ja does play the point guard, but he's not like the type of point guard like a Trae Young, or like that type of point guard who can like pass, but who can also shoot it well. You mentioned Ja Morant, whether a possibility they may move on from him. Of course, you know, ESPN Stephen A. Smith. This is what he said on First Take regarding the safety in Memphis. He said, quote, "The people in Memphis is a great sports town, great fans, great people, but there's an element where cats like Jimmy Butler and others don't feel it's the safest environment. I'm talking to the local authorities in Memphis. You got to clean some of that stuff up because it's dissuasive to NBA players. They have talked about it. I know they have told me." And Ja Morant had something to say regarding that. I don't know if I have the tweet right here, but Ja Morant did have something to say regarding what Stephen A alluded to on First Take. So let me see if I can try to find it real quick.
Basically, what he said was, because I'm reading the article a little bit right here. That's the reason I keep looking down. But basically, what he said was Stephen A is worried about the wrong thing. He should be covering the finals, cut out with these fake, what sources, and everything is fine. So basically, that was what he said right there. Number one, I think Ja was absolutely right, because there's so much other stuff that we could be talking about. And number two, there's a lot of other big cities that have crime problems. that has never dissuaded
Chicago.
anybody from coming there. Chicago, from I mean, we could start with Chicago, Washington D.C., Miami. People say Miami is not what it used to be. So there's a lot of places where it was crime. So
I got
what does that have?
I got
my
the
bad.
tweet
So
right
what does
here.
that have to
No,
do with
no. Yeah, I agree with you, champ. And I got the tweet right here from John Moran talking about the Grizz more than the finals with the laughing emoji with these cap sources. And then he said, instead of focusing on the performances we've seen from Jalen Williams, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, TJ McCollum, Pascal Siakam, how long the series is going, we say something negative about a city/team on a national level. And it is unfair to your point, champ, because we are taking away from a really good finals between the Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. But back to the trade, I think Memphis, they just did it for their future. I don't know about Giannis. I see Giannis more in an organization like a San Antonio because of the rich championship culture, the history. Popovich, you've talked about it, not just only as the head coach, but also with the staff. And plus to learn with guys like a Tim Duncan, a David Robinson, and you have something to look forward to with Sterling Castle, Victor Wembanyama, CP3's there. CP3 can still play. And it would be a better fit for CP3 Giannis than a Giannis, because CP3, he's going to dish the basketball. He may not be the same defender as he was earlier in his career, but Chris Paul's still going to compete, and he has the knowledge and the brains to do that. So fit-wise, I would like it for Giannis. But it's crazy. It's going to be interesting to see. But I think Orlando, they just did it because they feel like our best time is to compete right now. Who knows what's going to happen with these draft picks? So let's get somebody a Desmond Bane, because we talked about it. The East is wide open. And I just mentioned the Mikal Bridges trade. You know how many draft picks New York had to give up?
Yep. And like I said, I believe they did that to their future. And that's really, with Desmond Bane gone, you have to ask yourself, what are they going to do? What blockbuster they have planned? What's this trade in order to get more draft capital, in order to obtain a Giannis? Because it's going to take at least six, at least 6 draft picks in order to even get Giannis at a certain point. Or did they make this for their future because they know they're about to trade Ja in the offseason? And it's a question of where if Ja's going to end up leaving Memphis at a certain point, because everybody was talking about it when the coach got fired. Everybody was talking about it.
Not to mention Ja's off the court behavior, because we've talked about it before, champ.
Yeah, with the pews and all that other stuff.
And that's probably another reason why he came to the defense of Memphis, because again, Memphis, and Ja, I'm sorry, but these are facts. We saw the videos with him with the gun situation that led to the suspensions.
Yeah, we saw it. And yeah, there's a lot of questions about that, but I really think that's an unfair indictment on a great city like Memphis, especially when you think about it being the music, with the music, not just hip hop, but country and stuff like that. And, with Vanderbilt, not Vanderbilt, but there was Vandy, but it's very, very unfair. It's very, very unfair for that city to be brought up in a negative light, especially with Stephen A. I mean, what does that have to do with anything? Chicago has been full of crime for years. Washington, D.C., Atlanta. So a lot of big cities,
Detroit,
when it comes to big cities, a lot of big cities, they're going to be put on these, right or wrong, they're going to be put on these high pedestals when it comes to crime. Damn. And it's a huge city, so it's kind of hard to ignore them, because guess what? They're supposed to be attractive cities, but crime kind of, But that's taken away from the NBA Finals. I thought that was very, very cheap. And I believe that's the reason why ESPN is not what they used to be at a certain point, is because they always try to bring drama into sports. And that's the reason why. And that is the reason why ESPN is their ratings, and that's why a lot of people call it the W network. I'm not going to use the word, but you know what word I'm talking about, because they're always trying to bring drama into sports where it doesn't belong. It doesn't belong there. What does that have to do? What the thing is, that has nothing to do with the basketball team. We've seen a lot of other areas that are not necessarily friendly get attractions. Remember, when they built the Staples Center, a lot of people were not for that, with it being in downtown LA. People did not want the Staples Center in downtown LA. But they built the arena, and guess what? It's been thriving ever since. So just because you have crime in a certain area doesn't mean the basketball team can't thrive or attract free agents, especially when you have an attraction and a player like a Ja Morant. It does not mean that. So again, that's another indictment on ESPN trying to bring drama into a situation where it doesn't belong. And that is the very reason why ESPN is going downhill as we speak right now, because of drama, it being more about drama than it being about sports.
Well, that's not a surprise to me, Champ, because look, they gave Stephen A. Smith that 5-year, $100 million contract. So money doesn't change. It makes you more than what you already are. And if Stephen A. may try to deny that, there was the photo of him playing solitaire during the NBA Finals. So,
I mean, like I said, you can multitask, because sometimes, I'm not going to lie, I have sat here on my computer and played. I'm just going to be real.
And that's
playing Atari while I was like on and watching a WNBA game. You can multitask, but I'm not a professional
journalist.
That's not my full-time job. You have to have a level of professional. You have to have a level of professionalism and understand and read the darn room. Everybody's watching you already because they want to see you fail. They want to see you fail. You are not the media darling that you used to be, even within your own community. You're not the media darling that you were when you were on, quite frankly, when you were with Allen Iverson. You were basically covering the Philadelphia 76ers, and you were a beat writer back then. You are not in the good graces of the world right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And with you being the face of ESPN, everybody, whether we like it or not, Stephen A. is the face of ESPN. You are the face. So you have to watch every little thing that you do. People are watching that. What does it look like you playing solitaire while you're on your damn job? What does it look like? Oh, you can multitask. Okay, you can hide that stuff. You can look at your phone every now and then and see what's going on. Like I said, while the Indiana Fever, while the Chicago Sky play, I have sat here right here and played on my computer while I'm watching that game. I have done that. But at the same time, I don't have 50 million people looking at me as I'm the face of a network. I'm not the face of the network. When I'm on this show, yes, when I'm on this show, I don't do anything but watch what's going on this screen, and I might look over in order to see what's going on sports so we can talk about it as we go, but that's part of the job. I don't go around here and play Atari while I'm on the Sports PSP podcast, while I'm on Sports for You, while I'm on Stay Tuned, while I'm on my own darn podcast, because that's called freaking professionalism. Be professional in your gig. Don't nobody want to see your behind play solitaire while the NBA Finals is going on. What is that about?
It tells me, Champ, that this is who he is. Money don't change you. Money makes you more than what you already are. And I think it's too late. Stephen A. Smith is 57, about to be 58 in October. He's a Libra, just like you and I. So when you've made a certain amount of money, and he's no question, he's made a ton of money throughout his career. When you're the face of ESPN, I mean, do you understand how horrible of a look it is for ESPN to have the face of that company just to be playing solitaire while the NBA Finals is transpiring? But ESPN, they don't care. Because at the end of the day, what's the big deal? We still, I mean, even though people are still going to watch our product, and this is what they're subjecting to. We talked about the Stephen A. LeBron situation, champ. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we understand how embarrassing it was for LeBron and for Stephen A. Did I like how the fact that LeBron confronted Stephen A. Smith publicly? No, I did not. I felt like he should have handled it behind closed doors. But you've always said, hey, LeBron handled it like any parent, like any father in that scenario. He confronted Stephen A. because he felt like the criticism regarding him and his son went a little too far. And Stephen A. Smith embarrassed himself, particularly bringing up LeBron missing Kobe's memorial, which that was totally irrelevant, had nothing to do with it. And we talked about integrity. Brian Windhorst. Brian Windhorst has integrity. Still to this day, we saw the video of him being harassed by those or heckled by those Knicks fans. He still kept it moving. I believe if that were Stephen A. in that scenario, he definitely would have cussed. He definitely would have said something. Totally going against journalistic integrity. But I think champ it's too late with Stephen A. Smith. ESPN ain't gonna do nothing about it. They gave him his money. They're also at fault as well as Stephen A. Smith. So they have to live with this as well. Hey, you made your bed, you gotta lay in it. So you did your homework. You gave Stephen A. Smith that contract. Again, I respect Stephen A. Smith for his work, but lately that's why I called him a heel, champ. Because remember, we did babyface heel. You and BRF called him a tweener. I called him a heel. Now, again, I'll say it and I'll say it again. Just want to be careful. If he now compared to Jason Whitlock, I told you before, he'd be a babyface. You said it yourself, champ. My worst fear, my worst nightmare is to be compared to Jason Whitlock. You said it yourself. I don't want you to do it. You would give up your career as a journalist, as a content creator. Again, I do not want you to do that because you worked too damn hard to get to this point. Why stop now? But he's becoming something that he didn't want to become. And ESPN, they're part of it because at the end of the day, he's giving them high production. So the higher the production, the higher the tolerance level is. But back to Stephen A. Smith with Ja Morant regarding Memphis. Did he had to go there? He could have just talked about the trade. He could have talked about something else that may have played a role for the trade, but that's about that. I just didn't like that part. As far as with Orlando with the trade, I don't know. I don't blame them though, because again, the East is wide open. If the East wasn't this wide open, I wouldn't have give up all those draft picks. And they feel like he's another scorer to go along with it because you got two playmakers and passers and Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner who can also put the ball. It hurts losing KCP because again, of his ability to hit perimeter shots from the three to defend. I like it for Memphis. But at the same time, they still have to figure out what they need regarding a head coach because Taylor Jenkins is no longer there. But speaking of coaching, the New York Knicks, champ, it's being reported that they're not interested in Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, it's also been reported, that Shams Charania reported it that he's not interested in going to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
To my knowledge, yes, but let me make sure. I don't want to
Okay.
say anything wrong on the air.
Yeah, and if we misspoke again, audience, we apologize, champ, and I apologize because we just want to make sure that we're factual. Champ,
Yes,
to me. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm looking it up right now. Minnesota Timberwolves. Let me see.
Champ, to me, the Knicks, man, unless you told me you were going to find the right type of head coach to replace Tom Thibodeau after the job he's done with the New York Knicks for the past now 5 years, they should have kept him. You've made the Eastern Conference. This is your first time you've been to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2000. You've had back-to-back seasons of 50 wins or more. I mean, you've done a damn good job. You're making people You're making New York Knicks fans excited, proud. You're giving more of a reason for people to go to the Garden, considering who the owner is in James Dolan. I'm sorry, but hey, it's the facts. I mean, throughout his stewardship, Dolan has been a train wreck. I mean, at one point, who was a worse owner? There was him and Dan Snyder of my Washington Commanders. I mean, they're right up there. I mean, ironically and coincidentally, they both own their franchises since 1999. But when you look at James Dolan and you look at the job Leon Rose has done, James Dolan, I will give him credit. The thing that he has done is he has allowed Leon Rose and others to do the job. Meanwhile, stay out the way, not put the Knicks in the news for all the wrong reasons, such as banning fans from the Garden or kicking lifelong New York Knicks legends like Charles Oakley out of the Garden, or the situation with Spike Lee, as you mentioned, Champ, regarding the regarding the seat situation or the escort or whatever.
Yes.
They have to get it right with a head coach. It's been reported. It was reported that they tried to get Jason Kidd. I think it was their way of trying to get Giannis because of J. Kidd's and Giannis' relationship back to their days in Milwaukee. It's been denied. It's been reported that it's been denied. They tried Ime Udoka. Houston wasn't going to let Ime Udoka walk out the door. Not after the job he did with the Houston Rockets this year, taking them to the second seed, although they lost in the first round to the Golden State Warriors. Still no shame, because the Golden State Warriors are a more advanced, sophisticated team compared to Houston. So Houston wasn't going to let him go. But you got Michael Malone, who's fresh off from winning a championship. And with the Knicks saying that they don't want KD, could it be because, okay, I get it, Kevin Durant is 37 years old, but at the same time, you wanted him back in 2019 in free agency, but KD and Kyrie decided to go to Brooklyn. Now, at the time, I didn't have a problem with it because Brooklyn made the playoffs the previous year. Brooklyn was a young ascending team with the GM Sean Marks, the head coach Kenny Atkinson. You look at Dolan throughout his stewardship, the closest thing he's had to a superstar champ, you got to go back to Amari Stoudemire in 2010. And that was overshadowed because of the big three with LeBron and Wade and Bosh. So when you look at the New York Knicks, would it be nice to have a Kevin Durant on the team? Sure, but who would you have to give up? You're going to have to give up somebody. You're going to have to give up Cat. You're not giving up Jalen Brunson. And my thing is, if you're saying you don't want Kevin Durant at this juncture because 37 years old, okay, fine. And we've seen the past couple of years with the injuries, and even though he could still play, but all right, fine. We got no problem with it. But I think with the New York Knicks, they better get a head coach because this is as open in the East as possible. Why not get Michael Malone? Why not get a coach who's won a championship? It just seems to me, Champ, with the New York Knicks, when they're taking 2 steps forward, it seems like they're being set back. And as long as Jim Dolan is the owner of the New York Knicks, this is as far as they can go. And the New York Knicks, they overachieved with Thibodeau. Like I said before, unless I felt like they should have let go of Thibs. Okay, Thibs is known for running players into the ground. Thibs didn't make the necessary adjustments in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. And, of course, you alluded to this, player empowerment, players having too much empowerment. But if you let him go, who are you going to find? And it seems like to me with the Knicks, it's Leary. There's some good coaches out there. Budenholzer, Malone, they've won championships. But and I understand that the coaches are getting fired like crazy. It's like rice getting thrown at a wedding. But is it because of that, or is it because of Jim Dolan? You got to ask yourself that question.
Yes, and I really look, New York. Stop being stubborn. Stop trying to grab everybody else's coach. Mike Malone is out there. He's a championship coach. Go get him. It's as simple as that. Or if you want Coach Budenholzer, he's a championship coach. Go get him. But you trying to make all of these splashes in the press, trying to be Jerry Jones-esque of the NBA, that's not going to work. I'm not giving up my coach if I'm the Houston Rockets. I'm not giving up my coach if I am the Dallas Mavericks. I'm not giving up any coach at this point. Coaching is already becoming a civic joke when it comes to the NBA. Because guess what? When you win a championship, it's no longer sacred ground anymore. Because when players start complaining, coaches are gone. It used to be that was a rarity. Now that's the norm. So go out there and get Mike Malone. Let it go. I mean, hey, you have at least the thing that you can sell to the New York market and the New York Knicks fans is this. This is a coach that we know has won. This is a coach we know has won. Made it to the playoffs several times. Made it to a conference finals. Coach, a 3-time league MVP. Could have been a 4th one this year. And it would help, in my humble opinion, with the development of Cat as well, to even expand more of his game. Stop with all of this trying to be Jerry Jones-esque in the NBA. You're not that, You're not that, James Dolan. You're not that. As far as player empowerment, it's gone a little bit too far because guess what? You know, we've seen coaches get fired because of players before. We saw Magic Johnson and the Paul Westhead firing. We saw that. We saw a lot of other things prior to this. You know, we saw Carmelo Anthony. We saw George Karl probably get fired before he could even step on the floor with the Sacramento Kings. You know, you saw that debacle.
Him and Boogie Cousins, yeah.
And yeah, that was Boogie still getting in trouble. So you know, Boogie still getting in trouble. So you know, I'll let the people decide on whose fault that is. But I digress. But New York, just go out there and get Coach Mike Malone. Go out there and get Coach Mike Malone. Stop being stubborn. Enough's enough. Stop trying to trade for coaches. It's not going to happen. Because I'm not giving up Ime Udoka if I am the Houston Rockets. You might as well hang that up. You got a better chance of buying a 12-pack of Hot Pockets at a gas station. It's not going to happen. You have a better chance of buying a 12-pack of Hot Pockets at the gas station at midnight at night in Columbus, Georgia, than getting Ime Udoka. That's your chances. It's not going to happen. So what you need to do is you need to go out there and get Mike Malone, stop BSing around, and go ahead and get you a championship coach who's already on the market. You ain't got to trade for nobody. You ain't got to give up no more draft capital. You don't have to give up anything. Just go out there and get him. As far as not wanting Kevin Durant, I do not blame him because guess what? You can't be the final piece on the championship team again. And I'm not trying to give up a lot of draft capital in order to get you at this point. And you're 37. Right. Not to mention, I don't know the chemistry of this team and how it's going to be with you. As we saw, the last two teams you've been on, it really hasn't worked out outside of the Golden State Warriors. The chemistry of the team has been off. There's been a lot of offense, no defense. I have to ask myself what key piece that I'm going to give up this time in order to get you. And is it going to be a lot of cooks in the kitchens as far as, you know, scoring is concerned? We've seen teams that have been on the championship level and have made a trade for a scorer. But guess what? Because they got that scorer, you know, it's too many cooks in the kitchen. We saw that with the late 90s Houston Rockets. You know, they made the trade for Charles Barkley, and they wanted a big three with Drexler, Elijah Wan, and Clyde. But there was too many scorers in the kitchen and not enough role players. And there's only one ball to go around. Now, granted, they made it to the Western Conference Finals where they eventually fell to the Utah Jazz, but it was too many cooks in the kitchen at that point. Too many. So go out there, do the right thing, get Mike Malone, Stop trying to create these press clippings because ain't nobody in their right mind finna give up a good coach right now where coaching is a civic joke in order to give it to New York, especially James Dolan.
All I'm gonna say this: if they screw this up, New York Knicks fans, they're still gonna support their team, but they're gonna be furious because the East is wide open. We're back. We're relevant again because I told you, champ, it was supposed to be Brooklyn that was supposed to be the face for basketball in New York with KD, Kyrie, and then later on James Harden. The Knicks, and if you're James Dolan, you are lucky as hell because, to be honest with you, champ, the past 20 plus years since you've owned this team has been a train wreck. Again, the Allen Houston signing. Okay, the $100 million contract. You let go of Marv Albert because he gave constructive criticism of the team. You made all these moves. You banned fans from the arena because they told you sell the team because under your stewardship, the Knicks have been a disaster. Again, Charles Oakley, kicking Charles Oakley. The situation with Spike Lee, of all people, you're going to get into an issue with Spike Lee, given the fact that he's been there for you, supporting the team, marketing the team through thick and thin. Of course, we're not going to get into the whole details, but we all know the situation with Anuka Brown Sanders.
And Isaiah Thomas, the whole Larry Brown experiment when he tried to bring Larry Brown to New York with Stephon Marbury, who eventually went to China.
How'd that work out?
It didn't. So you need to sit down. So that's just the bottom line. You need to find a coach and you need to find them fast. And you need to go ahead and hire Mike Malone and stop being stubborn. I don't know what Mike Malone did, but you need to figure that out.
And plus, let's not forget, champ, because I hate to do this because you are a Lakers fan. They brought in Phil. And how'd that work out in New York?
That was a disaster of epical proportions. That was a band I have never seen. And everybody was smart enough to realize that the reason that Phil Jackson succeeded in his last stops was because he had a hell of a general manager that he clashed with. And so when you clash with Jerry Krause, that's one thing. But when you clash with Jerry West, who not only built the Lakers in the 80s, but in the late 90s was able to get Shaquille O'Neal signed and draft Kobe Bryant, and you clash with him as well, you got to look back at that Jerry Krause beef and ask who was really the problem. Because who didn't? Shaq loved Jerry West. Kobe loved Jerry West. Players around the Lakers loved Jerry West. Not to mention, he left the Lakers and built the Memphis Grizzlies. He built the Memphis Grizzlies. Then went on to help finish off the building of the Golden State Warriors. Remember this. Think about how different history would have been if that Kevin Love trade happens for Klay Thompson and Harrison Barnes. Think about how different history would have been. You know why that trade didn't happen? Because Jerry West stepped in and said, if you trade Klay Thompson, I'm quitting today. So think about how different that would have been. You built 3 dynasties, and then you helped build an up-and-coming Memphis Grizzlies team. But yet Phil didn't get along with neither one of his general managers. So there needs to be a lot of revisitation of the Jerry Krause beef, if you ask me. But as far as James Dolan, sit down. It's time. In the great words of Cedric the Entertainer, ain't no more. It's time. Go get Mike Malone. Stop trying to make these big splashes. It's not going to happen. And move on. That's what it needs to be.
I hope James Dolan's not paying attention to you because, again, we don't expect James Dolan to watch our show anyway. But all I'm going to say is with the New York Knicks, man, don't screw this up. You have something special and capitalize it. Because again, if you screw this up, ain't no way you're gonna come back. Time's the one thing you can never recapture. And Michael Malone should be the head coach, or Mike Budenholzer, or some quality head coach that can gel with the team. But with the Knicks, they're trying to. I mean, again, Thibs did a hell of a job. Give him his due. And I understand you wanted to let him go because running players under the ground. And I also understand the lack of adjustments. But unless you were going to find the right type of head coach, could you have thought about keeping him? Especially given what he's done for the Knicks? Gotta ask yourself that question. Ask yourself that question. But let's move on to a different basketball, the WNBA. Caitlin Clark. Boy, she put on a show against the New York Liberty. 32 points, tying a career record 7 threes she drained in a game. Those threes, champ, and again, Caitlin Clark, the reason why we talk about her so much because of the generational talent. Just watching her reminds you so much of Steph Curry. Just how she shoots the threes. She hit like 3 threes, deep ones. When she hit the third one, even Breanna Stewart, who is a star herself, she was even smiling and laughing. She was like, I can't believe it. And the thing is, Chip, this was her first game back since the injury. And she wasn't even in shape and in condition. There was even times she had to take herself out of the game. But man, she put on a show. And given the New York Liberty their first loss of the season. We also had Angel Reese the other day against the Connecticut Sun. First time in her career, she put up a triple-double. And even though Angel Reese, I've said it, champ, she still needs to work on her scoring, her shooting. That's something she must improve on. But overall, I liked what I saw. Her rebounding, that's her expertise. She can be a very good playmaker. She can be good as far as running up in transition if she wants to, champ. Not all the time, but from time to time. And her passing. Some of the passes that she made, I was very impressed and pleased. And then Nafisa Collier. She put on a show, 32 points. I think she had like 26 points in the first half against the Los Angeles Sparks. I think the coach wanted to stay there longer because she could have tied or break her record, which was 35 points. But for me right now, and there's actually a really good WNBA game as we speak right now. There's actually the Indiana Fever going up against the Connecticut Sun. We got the Mystics versus the Sky. We got the Valkyries against the Dallas team. You got Las Vegas up right now, 12 points, 31-19 to the Minnesota Lynx. But to me, champ, if the season ended today, I have Nafisa Collier. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name right. Is it Nafisa or
Nafisa Collier?
Nafisa Collier. I'm sorry, Nafisa Collier. Nafisa Collier, I have her as the MVP. She's leading the NBA in scoring. She's over 50% from the field, over 40% from three-point range, over 90% from the free throw line as I'm looking it up right now. I mean, this is really good. And plus, we got another good game, the Dream versus the Liberty right now.
Atlanta's ATL.
Yep, 72-65 Atlanta right now. But I'm glad we're talking more about basketball, champ, particularly with the Caitlin Clark, because before the WNBA ratings were down like 55%. But you look at those views from that Liberty, that Fever game, that was big.
Yeah, and I got the numbers wrong on the TikTok video. It was actually 2.9 million. But they scored higher than the Stanley Cup. So that was great within itself. And look, big ups to the New York market for making that happen too. It wasn't just one side. Because the thing is, people like to talk about the Caitlin Clark effect. But you have to think about this. Caitlin Clark was not in there. She was not in that NBA for that WNBA finals this past year, which was the highest rated WNBA finals in the last 20 years, ever since the Houston Comets were renting a 4P. That was the highest ratings in history. It got up to like 5 million. So big ups to the New York market as well. And the thing is, with the Indiana Fever, they could have beat them twice. Remember, they had that questionable call with the first one, even with Jonquel Jones with her in the game. Remember, the reason why they was able to pull away the second one, people will blame the injury on Jonquel Jones, who was the Finals MVP and a former MVP herself. So, yes, so there was a lot. So that was a very, very, very huge game for the WNBA to score higher than the Stanley Cup, which was at its peak. As far as the Napheesa Correa, I think it's hers to lose. It's MVP. Everybody talking about MVP this year. A'ja Wilson, she unfortunately has been hurt this year. She's been out with a concussion. Caitlin Clark, she missed 5 games with the concussions because, like I said, due to injury. Not to mention, the only person that is close to her right now, as far as Napheesa Correa is concerned, is Allisha Gray from that ATL. Yeah. And big ups to our partner from Madison, Georgia, that being BRF.
BRF Sports.
He warned us about the Atlanta Dream this year with Brianna Jones, Brittany Griner, Allisha Gray, and Ryan Howard. He warned us about them this year because we were talking about the Indiana Fever and the New York Liberty. He said, watch out for that front court in Atlanta with Brianna Jones and Brittany Griner and Allisha Gray, because they're on demon time this year. And he warned us about it. So big shout out to BRF, man. He knew what he was talking about, and he got us to talking about it. As far as the WNBA is concerned, I'm glad we're talking about it. And I'm glad we're talking about it outside of the dad blame drama. I'm glad we are talking about basketball. That's what I'm glad that we're talking about. People can try to discredit Caitlin Clark's numbers. People can try to discredit Napheesa Correa. People can try to discredit Angel Reese and her triple-double. You can try to discredit anything that you would like. But at the end of the day, in basketball terms, this is big. And those players are definitely making an impact for the future at this point. And quite frankly, I'm excited about it, man. These ladies deserve it. They're very, very talented. If people talk about the Caitlin Clark effect, you have to take into consideration the Las Vegas Aces sold out their season tickets and their arena every game 3 years in a row prior to her getting there when they was winning championships. Remember, they were in the limelight long before she got there. A'ja Wilson, Candace Parker, Kelsey Gray, all of those great players in that Las Vegas Aces team. They were on the map before she even got there. They were on the map. They were on the map so far that Clay Travis, remember the controversial take that he had with when they won their second consecutive championship, when they said that he would take a high school boys team and put them against the WNBA champions, and they will put up $1 million apiece. They were already in the limelight. Controversial or not, they were already in the limelight. So guess what? With you already being in the limelight and the limelight being extended, that is just going to be even greater than what it was. So big ups to all of these great WNBA players, man. And you can try to discredit them all you want to, but guess what? The more you try to discredit, the more you're watching. And that's the most important thing.
What did you think about Angel Reese with her triple-double champ? Because even though I'm kind of happy for Angel Reese, it doesn't seem like she's not getting enough love. And is it because of the controversy with Angel Reese? I'm like, at the end of the day, she put up a triple-double. And they'll nitpick and say, well, it was against the Connecticut Sun. They were 2-7. I mean, she was going up against, even though she's not what she used to be. Tina Charles is still a damn good woman. I used to watch her back in her days in UConn. I even met her and her father. But when I look at Angel Reese, I still think she needs to work on her shooting. Even the great Lisa Leslie said that's something that we got to work on, particularly inside the paint. But overall, I thought she played very well. And they'll nitpick, and people in the media and the public, they'll nitpick. They'll look at the shooting percentage. They'll look at the competition. They'll also look at the technical foul. And if you look at the technical foul, her hair was getting pulled back. Last thing you want to do to a woman, trust me, I know because I go to the hair salon. I mean, I spent $150 getting my hair braided. One thing you know about people, especially women, they don't like getting their hair pulled. And Angel Reese has that. Angel Reese has long hair, and she had every right to feel that way. I mean, but at the same time, I feel like people are just nitpicking, champ, because we had this discussion on Babyface Heel with Brett Favre and Michael Vick. And you've told me before, hey, even though Michael Vick, he's changed his life, you know, he's no longer in prison anymore. He's rehabilitated himself. People will still always bring up what led to him in Leavenworth. But with Brett Favre, with all the controversies that he had throughout his career, they still look at him from the glory gridiron days. You mentioned before selective amnesia. It's how they want to remember them. And it seems like for me with Angel Reese, they want to remember Angel Reese for all the negativity. But hey, you better give them their flowers right now because you don't know what could happen. And Angel Reese had a heck of a game despite the shooting performance.
If you really look at the shooting performance, the reason why it was that way, she scored 7 of those 11 points going to the free throw line because they was fouling her every single time. That's the bottom line. And if you really want me to be honest about it, stop trying to nitpick over some. I understand that Angel Reese, in the court of public opinion, I will say, is polarizing. But the thing is, give people credit where credit is due.
Thank you.
Was it a pretty triple-double? Nah, not necessarily. But we've seen stuff like that before. We saw it when Russell Westbrook, he had a few not so pretty triple-doubles. But like Jimmy Johnson used to always say when he was the coach of the Dallas Cowboys, don't be pretty, be good. And Angel Reese was damn good. She was damn good. So give credit where credit is due. And guess what? Caitlin Clark, she got her triple-double, one of her monster games from losing at the expense of a losing team. If you had to ask yourself, if this was anybody outside of Angel Reese, would we really care how they got triple-double? Heck no. We'd be singing their praises, clapping our hands, amening, saying that, hey, especially with her going from a power forward to being kind of like a point forward, a Scottie Pippen type of forward at this point, we'll be clapping our hands, amening, or anything else like that, and we'll be clapping and singing her praises if it was anybody outside of Angel Reese. But because it was Angel, because people want to remember that You Can't See Me from the national championship game, and as I've been on record and saying, everybody wants to be class policemen, class when their favorite player does not win, then hey, everybody want to say something out of pocket. But let me say this. Look, love someone or hate someone, give them their flowers. They did a good job. And outside of that, y'all was talking crap. The masses was talking crap all weekend. Me bounce. Not only did she go out there and score a triple-double, but she patented the next day. So now she's about to make even more millions.
Smart.
So, not to mention, she's having a hell of a game right now against I personally compare her to in the form of Kiki Ariafi. So she's having another big game tonight. She already has 12 points and 6 rebounds, going 5 for 6 from the floor, going 5 for 7 from the floor. So she's getting ready to shut your behind up again.
With 3
So
assists.
what are you going to say after the night? What are you going to say? Give people their flowers while they can still smell them, and acknowledge when people are making strides in order to be better players. I understand that Angel Reese is more Hollywood than Caitlin Clark, and that was the attraction with Bird and Magic. Bird wasn't out necessary at the award shows. He wasn't in commercials all the time. He wasn't at the Playboy Mansion. He wasn't doing any of that. What made them so special is that they were different. And now that Angel Reese is getting better and this team is getting better and it can become a rivalry, let's just let that be that. We wanted a rivalry. Now that it's coming into fruition, let's have it. And let's give this thing a whirl. And the thing is, I will say this. For right now, because we don't know how good Angel Reese is going to be 2-3 years from now. For now, Caitlin Clark has the edge over Angel Reese. But people do not want to acknowledge this. Angel Reese does not have a Kelsey Mitchell and a Leah Boston or DeWanna Bonner or any of those players that she inherited when she first got to that team. The Chicago Sky have not done a good job in trading the best players in order to get good players around those twin towers that they have in the form of Cardozo and Angel Reese. They have not done a good job with that. They let go of Marina Mabry. Kennedy Carter's gone. Yes, so they have not done a great job with managing that team the way they're supposed to. So she's got a triple-double on you last night. The other night, I'll say. Now she's almost at a double-double right now and is 5 for 7 from the floor. What are you going to say if she get another triple-double tonight? Just acknowledge it. They're the two youngest players to ever get a triple-double. The two youngest to get a triple-double. The two youngest. And when people are making strides with their game and adding extra dimension, that deserves acknowledgement. Because remember, she was getting criticism all year long last year. She doesn't make her team better. She doesn't have. Okay, now she's made strides on the defensive side. Now she's made strides as a facilitator. She's averaging at least 1.5 steals and a half a block a game. She's a monster on the rebounding. Now she's adding extra dimensions to that. So now, okay, just chill out. And for people who are going to say, well, she's not that good, are you aware that two people can occupy the same space of greatness at the same time? Although I might not be as great as you are. You can cheer for another one without bringing the other one down. I think that the media and,
public,
a little bit of everybody, you can't just blame one side, like to create bull jive narrative that have nothing to do with basketball. If we're just talking about basketball, from a basketball standpoint, there's a reason why Angel Reese was named National Player of the Year, why she was an All-American, why she was a national champion, why she was an All-Star, why she's on the verge of being an All-Star this year, why she had a triple-double last night. I made the comparison earlier in the draft process. Her and Sadua Sanders are kind of the same in the sense that depending on who you ask, they will tell you they're not that good. But if you look at the stat sheet and you look at the accolades, they're there with anybody. So, of course, people are going to have their doubts. That was an ugly triple-double. We saw Draymond Green get an ugly triple-double where he only scored 4 points and got a triple-double. I think he had 10 assists, 10 steals, and 14 rebounds. But it was acknowledged he didn't care about scoring. He cared about winning. And people keep comparing Angel to Draymond Green. She's the Draymond Green of the WNBA. Okay, and Draymond Green's a Hall of Famer.
That's not.
He's a defensive player of the year.
That's not negative to compare her to a Draymond, because we know what Draymond provides as far as his defense, leadership, and his facilitating. I just think, Champ, it's who we like. When we like someone, we will do everything to sing their praises and give them their approval. But it's someone that we particularly dislike. We just want to throw stones at them. And I think it's unfair to Angel Reese because, again, if you look at the first half, she's averaging, she already got 12 points, 6 rebounds. She's on pace to give you 24 points, 12 rebounds. And if she does that, I know damn well you're gonna do a video about it, which you will on TikTok, talking about it.
Yes, and
Because
she's doing it against a person that I compared her to. I personally compared her to Kiki Ariafi.
yes, and I like the Shadura Sanders analogy because again, they are Hollywood in terms of their personalities, but at the end of the day, can they play? Can they produce?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, as long as you can do that, that's fine with me. But I think just with Angel Reese, I don't want to put her in the same breath with Caitlin Clark. I think Angel Reese can be very good. I think she still has time. She still has she's 23 years old. She has a lot to prove. She's only in her second year. Let's wait and see. Would I say Angel Caitlin rivalry as of yet? No, because I think Caitlin is just on a different level from a talent and from a skill standpoint, champ, than Angel Reese. But that doesn't mean that Angel Reese can't contribute. That doesn't mean Angel Reese can't play. That doesn't mean Angel Reese doesn't belong in the WNBA. I just still think she needs time to grow and improve and evolve her game. But I still believe she'll be good.
Yes, and it's okay that somebody's better than you for the time being. It's
There's no
okay.
shame to
We
that.
all acknowledge. No, we all acknowledge that Caitlin Clark. The thing is about Caitlin, she's ahead of a lot of point guards that are 3-year veterans. Not just Angel, she's ahead of a lot of the women that are in the WNBA that have been in there for years, as far as the guard position is concerned. So she's ahead of a lot of the pack as far as that. She was a rookie making all NBA. She was an MVP candidate just last year. So she was ahead of the curve for a lot of players who were already in the WNBA for years. Even Rossi also, she had strong criticisms about Caitlin Clark. She even acknowledged, I'm living in my own reality. So it's okay. We acknowledge that Caitlin Clark is light years ahead of not just Angel, but a lot of players who were in the WNBA. She was all NBA last year as a rookie for a reason. She was an MVP candidate for a reason. But the thing is, you don't have to tear one person down in order to big someone up. It's kind of like the whole Jordan, and I hate it's a bad comparison. It's kind of like people try to drag down LeBron in order to big up Jordan. You don't have to do that. And the thing is this. She was drafted 10th overall for a reason. Well, excuse me, she was drafted 7th for a reason. She was drafted 7th for a reason. She's outshining the person who was drafted above her for a reason. They are putting her in different looks for a reason. She's getting better and better as every game passes for a reason. So what happens if she's able to bring this team back and they make a playoff run? What are you going to say then? And it's okay to acknowledge that Caitlin is ahead of her. Okay, cool. We acknowledge that. Nobody's saying that. Everybody realized that last year that Caitlin Clark was ahead of Angel Reese. But you also have to take into consideration a lot of other factors. Angel Reese doesn't have a Kelsey Mitchell. She doesn't have an Aaliyah Boston. She doesn't have a lot of the great players that she doesn't have a Sophia Cunningham, a Lexi Hole. That organization in Chicago is very, very dysfunctional. They've made a lot of bad trades. So with that being said, you have to take into consideration everything. People don't like to acknowledge this, but the thing is that Bird and Magic thing does not work if it doesn't work if Magic Johnson goes to the New Orleans Pelicans, where they have no talent on that team, and Bird goes to the Boston Celtics, who is a model franchise. It doesn't work if it's that way. If Magic and I know the New Orleans Pelicans did not exist back then for the audience out there, but I'm just making an analogy. If Magic would have ended up going to the New Orleans Pelicans, rather than a team like the Los Angeles Lakers who had talent like Kareem, like Norm. I was an all-star before Magic Nixon, like a Bob McAdoo, like a Kurt Rambis, like an Adrian Dantley. If he doesn't go to a model world-class organization with an owner like a Dr. Buss, are we really talking about that rivalry to this day like we are? Because that's one factor that people like to leave out of it. Yes, Bird and Magic were talented in their own right, and they were very, very similar. But the key in that rivalry was they went to model organizations. Chicago Sky are not a model organization. They have not did a good job with managing the talents that they have. They have not. But what they have done in developing Angel and putting her in different looks and turning her into a point forward where she's running the floor. She's able to be a defensive stopper, where she's able to get even better at her rebounds, even better at steals and blocks and things of that nature. The way they've been able to develop her and Cardozo, not to mention HBL, that's amazing, the development process that they put these players through. But let's acknowledge, they have not done the best job of bringing veteran leadership to that organization or anything of that nature. Matter of fact, like I said, last year they traded both of them. They traded Marina Mabrey, and they got rid of Kennedy Carter, who was their high scorer last year. So when you take that into consideration, they're not on the even playing field when it comes to teams. But that's no reason to bring Angel Reese down or knock her. Because like I said, Angel Reese does not have a Kelsey Mitchell to lean on if she's out for, let's say, 2 to 3 games. There's not that on that team. There's not that. So I know that no matter what she does, people are going to try to knock her. But, I mean, I think at this rate, the only way that Angel is going to really shut up the masses at this point is if she makes all NBA next year. I don't see it happening this year because there's so many great bigs in the WNBA at this point. If she makes all NBA next year in the W or make a 3rd consecutive All-Star next year, I think that'll finally shut everybody up. But it remains to be seen.
Definitely remains to be seen, champ. But Napheesa Collier, she has to win. Napheesa Collier. Look, you're the one who you should be talking. You have a hard time pronouncing Michael Parsons' name.
Yeah, I do have to. I don't even pronounce his name no more. I just say Parsons. I just say his last name like I'm in the military still. But yeah, MVP. Yeah,
MVP. She should win it. And right now she's leading the WNBA in scoring, averaging around 26 and 8. Over 50% from the field, over 40% from 3, over 90%. Minnesota Lynch, they have the best record right now in the WNBA, and she is coming back off an injury. And you said she's coming back with a vengeance, so I think it should be her at this particular point.
Yes, indeed, man. And like I said, Alicia Gray from the ATL should be considered in that as well. But like you said, man, I think it's Napheesa Collier to lose at this point, especially with A'ja Wilson being out and the Las Vegas Aces not looking that good at this point, although they are beating the Lynx right about now as I'm looking at it. So
39-30 at halftime.
Yes, indeed.
And if you're looking at right now, the Fever, they're beating the Connecticut Sun 87-70, and that looked like that game is about to be over.
Yes, indeed.
She better win the MVP if the season ended today. But anyway, folks, that concludes the rest of the Sports PSP pod. Don't worry, there will be a show Friday night, 9 p.m., as Undisputed World Champ always calls it, the highlight of Friday nights. Always a pleasure having you on the pod, Champ. Tell them where to follow you at and any final words.
Always a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to be here on the Sports PSP podcast. PSP, keep doing your thing. Almost to 115K. So big ups to PSP. Give him his flowers because he's one of the best podcasters in the game. Like I said before, PSP is to podcasting what Tom Joyner is to radio. the hardest working man in podcasting. And if anybody got a problem with that, you can tell them to come see me about it. But you know what I'm saying? I have to give PSP his flowers. Like I said, I be at work. Like I said, I am a IT specialist. I be at work doing diagrams and stuff like that. I get a video from PSP. Hey, man. And that's how it goes every single day. So give PSP his flowers, man. Without PSP, you do not see world champion. You do not see BRF. You do not see a lot of these talented individuals that he brings on his platform in order to give us platforms. Because without PSP, there will be no Undisputed GOAT podcast, which is myself, Flash, and BRF's pod. There will be none of that. So big ups to them, big ups to PSP, Mama PSP, and all the people that support him. And look, we salute you. I salute you. And PSP, keep doing your thing, man. I'm darn proud of you, brother.
Thank you, man. Also want to give a quick shout out to some women out there, Mama PSP. Thank you for everything that you do, Mama PSP. Love you as always. Also want to thank a person that we know very well, Champ D, someone that I talk to, someone that I look at as a big sister. Thank you for everything that you've done for me, sweetheart. You're like a big sister to me. I always appreciate the conversations that we have through good and bad. I always appreciate the conversations. And please shout out to this special woman, Jennifer Lazarus, who's one of my college professors at Montclair State University, who taught me a lot about social media, who taught me a lot about content creation and helped me along the way. I look at her like a mother figure, and I just want to say thank you so much for believing in me and, just giving me faith, because she knows my struggle. For those who may not know, I have autism. Sometimes it affects my ability to speak and learn. And she's told me about her experience with autism, given the fact that one of her children has autism. And she just gives me hope. She just gives me hope every single day, not only just with content creation, but also in life. So I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done for me. And I love you. And hopefully we'll meet again soon. So thank you to everyone for on the Sports PSP pod. We will definitely do a show for you Friday night. Enjoy the rest of y'all day. And we is out. Peace.